Hey guys, it's me, Cupid. I have schizophrenia. So welcome back. I have some more news articles that I want to do today. So some more news about schizophrenia and psychosis. So thought that I would go over some of these with you guys. I think they're pretty interesting. Some really great stuff, and they're all from this year. Within the last couple of months. Some of them are actually even just written last month. So let's get started. This one is from August 27th, 2020. Scientists use blood tests to predict who is likely to develop psychotic disorders. Scientists have discovered that testing the levels of certain proteins in blood samples can predict whether a person is at risk of psychosis. A person at risk of psychosis is likely to develop a psychotic disorder years later. Based on certain criteria, such as mild or brief psychotic symptoms, some people are considered to be clinically at high risk of developing a psychotic disorder, such as schizophrenia. However, only 20 to 30% of these people will actually go on to develop a psychotic disorder. The researchers analyzed blood samples taken from people at clinical high risk of psychosis. These individuals were followed up for several years to see who did and did not develop a psychotic disorder. After assessing the proteins in blood samples and using machine learning to analyze this data, the scientists were able to find patterns of proteins in early blood samples that could predict who did and did not develop a psychotic disorder at follow-up. All right, so the next news article was from August 17th, 2020. Targeted treatment for depression could benefit patients with psychosis. Patients with early onset psychosis may benefit from treatment for depression, including with antidepressants alongside other medication, new research shows. According to the scientists at University of Birmingham's Institute for Mental Health, depression may be an intrinsic part of the early phase psychotic disorders that should be treated together with other more prominent symptoms to improve patient outcomes. Depression is often identified along psychotic disorders such as schizophrenia in the early stages of the disorder, but is not currently routinely treated in a new study published in Schizophrenia Bulletin. The researchers set out to find out more about the associations between depression and psychosis, and particularly whether there were similarities in brain structure that could help future diagnostic pathways at an early stage. Their results showed that in fact there was a little difference in either the patient's depressive symptoms or in the structural brain changes in patients with depression, with and without psychosis. This shows that there is no subgroup of patients with both depression and psychosis, but rather that depression may be an intrinsic part of a majority of patients' psychosis. I actually think that makes sense. I don't know if you guys do, but I feel like my psychosis has been brought on usually by depression about something in particular or certain things, a lot of stuff happening. I don't know if that makes sense. They do say that there are triggers, and so I know that it could have been triggers that happened. So I don't know if that makes sense. Future mental health. The next one is actually from August 17th, 2020 as well. Future mental health care may include diagnosis via brain scan and computer algorithm. Most of the modern medicine has physical tests or objective techniques to find much of what ails us. Yet there is currently no blood or genetic test or impartial procedure that can definitively diagnose a mental illness, and certainly none to distinguish between different psychiatric disorders with similar symptoms. Experts at the University of Tokyo are combining machine learning with brain imaging tools to redefine the standard for diagnosing mental illness. The U-Tokyo research team says there is the first study to differentiate between multiple psychiatric diagnoses, including autism spectrum disorder and schizophrenia. Although depicted very differently in popular culture, scientists have long suspected autism and schizophrenia are somehow linked. Autism spectrum disorder patients have a 10 times higher risk of schizophrenia than the general population. Social support is needed for autism, but generally the psychosis of schizophrenia requires medication, so the distinguishing between the two conditions or knowing when they co-occur is very important. So computer converts brain images into a world of numbers. A multidisciplinary team of medical and machine learning experts trained their computer algorithm using MRI brain scans of 206 Japanese adults, a combination of patients already diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder or schizophrenia, individuals considered high risk for schizophrenia, and those who experienced their first instance of psychosis, as well as neurotypical people with no mental health concerns. All of the volunteers with autism were men, but there was roughly equal number of male and female volunteers in the other groups. Machine learning uses statistics to find patterns in large amounts of data. These programs find similarities within groups and differences between groups that occur too often to be easily dismissed as coincidence. The study used 6 different algorithms to distinguish between the different MRI images of the patient groups. The machines help shape the future of psychiatry. The research team notes that the success of distinguishing between the brains of non-patients and individuals at risk for schizophrenia may reveal that the physical differences in the brain that cause schizophrenia are present even before symptoms arise, and then remain consistent over time. All right, so our next news article is Young People with Early Psychosis May Not Require Anti-Psychotic Medications to Recover. June 17, 2020 is when this article came out. Researchers at Oregon have found that some young people with early-stage first episode psychosis can experience reduced symptoms and improve functioning without antipsychotic medications when they are provided with psychological interventions and comprehensive case management. The study found that the addition of antipsychotic medication to intensive psychosocial intervention did not lead to superior outcomes in symptoms and functioning within the first 6 months, suggesting that antipsychotic medication may not be needed early in the course of illness for all people within the spectrum of psychosis. All right, so I was reading also that they were saying that there was other things like specific therapies that they recommend instead. I don't know why I didn't. Or maybe I did. Yes, I did. Okay, I already said that. All right, schizophrenia related to abnormal fatty. So this next one is from April 28th, 2020. Schizophrenia related to abnormal fatty metabolism in the brain. Researchers at Riken Center for Brain Science in Japan have discovered a deficiency in brains of people with schizophrenia that could lead to the development of new drug therapies. A post-mortem comparison published in Schizophrenia Bulletin revealed that schizophrenia was associated with lower than normal levels of S1P, a type of fatty molecule found in the white matter of the brain. Preventing S1P degradation might therefore be a new direction for drug development in treating schizophrenia. In recent years, drug therapy for schizophrenia has come to a standstill. Most of the drugs available for schizophrenia are based on dopamine, but they are ineffective in about 1 out of every 3 patients. Because we don't have another angle on what causes schizophrenia, many pharmaceutical companies are pulling out of schizophrenia-related drug development. Hopefully, our findings can provide the new angle with a new target for drug development. Although schizophrenia is a well-known mental disorder that affects the brain, how it does so remains somewhat of a mystery. Scientists have known for some time that the brains of people with schizophrenia have less white matter than normal brains. White matter in the brain is made from I'm going to put this at the bottom of the screen. Oligodendrocytes. I don't know. Special cells that wrap around the parts of the neurons that carry outgoing signals, which helps them communicate with each other. Characteristic symptoms of schizophrenia include hallucinations and the inability to distinguish reality from fantasy, which might originate in white matter abnormalities that cause irregular communication between neurons. All right, so that is all of the news articles that I have for today. I hope you guys like that. I thought that was some really interesting stuff. While I was reading them, when I was reading them before the video, I was learning a lot. So when I was finding these articles, I learned quite a bit about what the new research is. And there's always new research, so there's always something that we can discuss as far as, what's going on in the world of schizophrenia. So I think that's pretty awesome. And if you guys have any more questions about it, I would love to answer your questions. If you guys would like the links to these news articles, I can give you those links as well. That way you guys can read the whole article. I only gave you guys snippets, I think that's the word, of the news articles. So I wasn't trying to go into great lengths in detail. I gave you guys basically the better information. I don't know if that makes sense. The most necessary. How's that? All right, so I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Stay wonderful, stay beautiful, stay amazing, stay awesome, stay unique, stay you, and above all else, you guys love yourselves. Peace and love.